Hi, Martin.
Hi, Martin.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So your work with brain and cognition in skill learning and performance is incredibly relevant to the theme of well-being that we're discussing today. Can you tell us how your interest in this field came about?
Well, I wish I could tell you that was a well thought out process, but as with most things in life, it kind of happened. I originally was going to study veterinary medicine and then lung physiology of all things. But then I fell into the area of motor learning or skill acquisition. Um, Look, I think the interest for me is really as a former athlete, I used to play gridiron, just that emotional state that you're in right before the game where, you just feel terrible. You just want the game to start. Looking back, that's sort of the initial areas of interest that I had to recognize the importance of emotion in our performance. I mean, we all want to perform, right? And often we feel we're ready to perform, but then it's almost like, unfortunately, our emotions get in the way of that performance. So, it's that sort of interest of what's going on. So we've trained, we've put in the hours to practice to perform whatever it is, and then comes these emotions kicking in, disrupting it all, throwing the plan out. So that to me is really interesting, and sort of where I'm at my career now is to recognize as much as we know about how the brain learns skills, what we don't really understand too well is the role of emotions, right? So what's the right emotional state to be in when we want to learn something, whether you're studying content for uni upcoming exam, you're studying for a skills test, or you're preparing for a performance, music, performing arts, so et cetera. So what's the right state to be in to acquire this? And moreover, does that state that you sort of practice in, right, does that have to be sort of a simulation or replication of what you anticipate to have to perform in? There's a lot of questions there we don't quite understand. And I surmise, overall, it's really difficult to study emotions in the brain. Number one, we're all very different in our emotions. I always like to flash up like a picture of people on a roller coaster, and some will be in the back like, this is the best thing ever. If it was me, it's like face of death. That would be my experience. So just the unique individuality we have in our emotional side makes it really hard to study as a science. So, why did I come into this area? Why am I interested in this area? I love the idea of learning in the sense that we can change our brain. I mean, that to me is fascinating. We come to university to learn something, but in that process, we're actually changing ourselves. Even to step into a space like Museum of Discovery, that can acutely change how you think about something. That to me is fascinating. And then just the fact that we humans are not robots, or no, we're not artificial intelligence that coldly learn, that we actually feel things. And the first thing that we feel when we want to learn something new is that frustration of not being able to do it right, and so what comes out of that to me is absolutely fascinating. So I like to think in my area of study I backed the right horse, because I absolutely love it, and hopefully in this little talk today some of that passion will come through.
I think it already has. So I think we're on the right track.
Great, great.
So how does that tie in with your role at Uni SA as well?
Yeah, sure. So my role officially is senior lecturer. I guess that's the old dude who gets up and talks. But part of my role is to teach, to sort of foster that change in individuals. So I teach within human movement program, exercise sports science program, and also a program that prepares clinical exercise physiologists. So my role there is very much about conveying the theory and the practice, and I guess the art of how to acquire skills and what's involved there. I also teach another course that looks at what is the neuroscience of how us humans move from spinal cord level reflex contributions right on up to very complex brain systems planning. Something is what feels to us as simple, brushing your teeth. Uh, you don't have a robot at home brushing your teeth, and that there's a reason for that because it's actually quite complex to do. But we can do it without even thinking about it now. So thinking about that high level of how we take something that at first you have to think about a lot, and then over time it becomes automatic. What people call sort of muscle memory. Um, so I teach, but to make sure that our students get the latest, greatest advances in science, I'm also a researcher. So my other responsibility is to supervise students doing honors, masters by research, PhDs, sort of the new wave of scientists, as it were, but also produce primary research and secure grants to fund that research. So crazy exciting job, I have to say. I can't believe they're paying me money to do this, but they do. So I really love my career, I guess.
Oh, that's so good. Now, in regards to, so you're a researcher as well. So can you tell us more about your research with mindfulness, meditation, and performance?
Yeah, if I could look, the reason I really feel strongly about this is, if anything, what I would hope my research does is demystify the idea of meditation. We can think meditation. I mean, we see it in the media, and we might be led to think, well, meditation, you have to sort of be born with psychic qualities or superhuman powers to be able to do that, or I must be having this level of flexibility to bend my legs like that, or I need to drop my whole life and go live in a cave to do it right. To really demystify this thing that we call meditation, to really go, actually, it's something that we can all do. May not be easy, but I'd like to believe that meditation, the techniques of meditation, I should say, have been developed over thousands of years, keeping in mind of how our mind naturally works, right? So, no, you don't have to be born with superhuman powers to do it. It's actually rather accessible. It's the right technique for our brain, as it were. We just have to find what that sort of entry point is. And also, I feel there's a lot of misconception, misunderstanding about what meditation um, is. So I think at that level, I want to demystify it and sort of say, well, this is something that everyone can do. And in fact, meditation doesn't mean that you have to do a mindfulness technique. There's other ways to do it. I like to even think that there's this thing called the meditation of washing dishes, because what we're talking about in meditation is applying the way that we use things like attention and working memory in a different way. So, like I said, with brushing our teeth, right? We can do it automatically. What I call, we can go into the autopilot, and that's great because it frees up all these resources to think about what you're going to do for the day. Let's say you're brushing your teeth in the morning, planning your day, thinking about what you're going to wear, all these things you're going to do, and emails you have to send. But the other way that you could do this is to turn all that extra resource that you've developed through practicing brushing your teeth and turn it inward to go, actually, how am I brushing my teeth? How do I hold my toothbrush? You know, how do I stand? How do I breathe? All of these things that we do at the same time as brushing our teeth, we can actually watch and see what it is. And so in that respect, you could even turn your hygienic practices of brushing your teeth into a meditation. And that's true for going for a walk. You can go for a walk, and I would assume most of us have automated our walking. We can think about X, Y, and Z, or you can actually look at how you walk. How does it feel to walk? What's happening around me? And you know, to do that makes walking, not just going for a walk, whatever, it can actually make it quite a special experience. So that's the other part of my research is for people to recognize, oh no, I don't have to go live in a cave to meditate. Actually, brushing my teeth can be one step further at what I call a meditation practice for me. And that's really relevant today because one of the biggest challenges we have is having time, especially picking up a new routine, something that we want to do, and we go, oh, okay, that's all nice. No, I just don't have time to drive here, take a class, and all these sort of things that actually you could do it right at home. Even conversing to others, which most of us have to do at work, or typing, those can all be sources of meditation. But at a more specific level, sort of come back to the idea of better understanding of what's involved in our brain when we want to learn skills, to view meditation as a potentially useful strategy to enhance that. It's all about enhancement, right? uh, that's what attracts attention. Can we do something better? And it may be that something as simple as a brief meditation, 10, 20 minutes, can help that. And the old thinking was, okay, if you want to derive some sort of benefit from meditation, first you have to invest and train in the technique, right? And maybe you have to go and spend 10 years of training meditation before you have any hope of getting any benefit. Well, we sort of turned that idea on its head and asked, well, what if we bring people who have never meditated, give them a 15-minute meditation, and then give them this task where we can explore how well they're actually learning? And what we showed is even though people haven't had extensive training, they were deriving benefits from that 15-minute meditation. That to me, again, demystifies that meditation, is going to require you to drop your life and go off and study for 10 years before you can hope to get any benefit, whether it's performance or well-being. That in fact, meditation, or these techniques of meditation, are tapping into processes that are available to us right here, right now, and doing it in a way, it's just a formula, right? It's one formula, it's not the formula, but doing it in a way that we can elicit benefits right after it. So imagine taking this further. Let's say you've got a group of children or maybe even adults who are learning a skill, whether it's sport, university, and before that lesson, you just drop into a 10-minute meditation technique to prime the brain to learn, you know? And we're not talking about rocket science meditation techniques. I probably shouldn't say that because, if you sell DVD, you make it sound like it's rocket science or CD, whatever. But something as simple as watch your breath. It sounds simple. Try to do it, and it's much harder. But just watch your breath for a few minutes, see what's going on there. Use that as an arena to observe the workings of your mind, how easily you get distracted, and you bring it back. That act can, supposedly based on our evidence, enhance learning of something completely different. Learning a skill is different in some respects to meditation. So we use very basic lab techniques, simple hand finger movements that people have to acquire. That's a little bit different than meditation. But if you think about it, the overlap between meditation and learning a new skill is in the attention and working memory. We have to use attention to meditate, to learn skills. We have to use our working memory. So these faculties that are shared between, perhaps the meditation is priming those, that we can then make the best use of them when we're learning the other skill. Yeah. Please
Yeah,
dive in.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, no, that's amazing. There's so much there, and it's great to hear of kind of all this kind of academic research going into these fields. Kind of as a performing artist a lot of the time, and we have this kind of thing in the theater. You have like a 1 hour call before your show. You got to get to the theater and just get ready, and some of that's practically getting ready, but a lot of, I think a big part of that also is sort of just getting yourself ready, and part of that is a form of meditation that people might not all call it meditation, but it's, yeah, it's sort of getting present and getting ready and trying to brush away the nerves. Yeah, and I think it's using techniques that you're talking about there. And I also realize why I still like washing the dishes, even though I've got a dishwasher. I think I get a little bit of
Yeah.
meditation out of that too. So thanks for answering that question.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and throughout your research, you've worked with groups of people across many disciplines: performers, scientists, students, athletes, academics. Have there been any other challenges that have come up during your research related to applying or communicating the techniques and the concepts?
Yeah, you're right. I've tried to work with a number of groups. Despite the uniqueness of the groups, you could say even within a group, one challenge again comes back to our individuality, our individual differences. So let's say in a particular experiment, we might have the same meditation being delivered to different people. And we anecdotally get, some people going, oh, wow, that was just the hardest. Yeah, I never would do that again. That was just not a fun experience. And the same meditation for somebody else, they might go, where can I get more of that? Because I really dropped in a nice space with that, And if you're trying to do research, you're trying to get some degree of consistency in results. But if people are coming out of or entering in and coming out in a very different sort of reaction or state to it, you can expect very different reactions and outcomes from what happens after. So I think that's a particular challenge. I think it's also something we shouldn't glance over because in meditation, often, unfortunately, there's a view of one size fits all. Particularly in corporate applications, we've got this one package, and everyone's going to do it, and everyone should get some benefit to it. But we humans don't work like that. Some people hear my voice in a meditation recording and go, "Oh no, not a North American accent," where's the Aussie? Or we have preferences. Oh, I prefer a female voice, or whatever it is. We should understand what these individual differences are. Even more specific to the technique, what's the right amount? That's the most common question I get. What's the right amount that I should be hitting every day? Um, it's just hard to say. What might be 3 minutes for some might be 20 minutes, for others. The other thing is that a meditation technique typically requires some object, something you got to hang your attention on. So it might be your breathing, for example. It might be look at this and maintain your attention on this object in front of you. There's many different techniques out there, and each might use different objects. Some really want you to narrow your attention on one thing. Others open it up and watch several things at the same time. And what's the right fit for the person might depend on where they're at, within their practice or their baseline faculties of attention, working memory. But I think another challenge is what expectations people bring to the table when they come into something like meditation. Because fortunately, it's been all over the media. It's great. It creates a lot of awareness that there is this thing. But is that portrayal of meditation the right portrayal? Because meditation is not one thing. If I say meditation, that's like saying food. Well, what do you mean by food? Is it my veggies? Is it my protein? Is it my fats? Is it my fluids? And moreover, it's not just food, but eating, because there's different ways that you can eat. You can eat standing up, sitting down. You can eat fast, slow, big meal, little meal. There's so many different ways that you can eat food. And similarly, there's many different ways that you can participate in meditation techniques. So where I'd really think the field needs to focus on is identifying Maybe you've heard about individualized medicine, really tailoring the medicine for the individual. To really, maybe we need to do a better job of tailoring the meditation techniques to the individual, and let them be the agent in selecting that as well, rather than being told this is what you get. Let them select, and let them perhaps trial and error, you know, dibble dabble, see what works for you.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe that's kind of maybe answered my next question, but perhaps you can expand a little bit of about like what challenges do you find we as individuals and as a community need to overcome to regularly meditate and experience the positive benefits?
Yeah, I guess it's about expanding that idea further, and coming back to, what is meditation? You know, is it something that we can all do? Or is it limited to certain types of individuals? And I don't mean just the superhuman power kind of thing, but what I mean there is, uh, it's like with anything that we want to change in our behavior, you have to be ready for that. You sort of have to have the intention and the willing to commit your effort. Uh, and I think people need to be a little bit more informed of what to expect with meditation. Like, let's take the scenario: someone goes to their GP and they're experiencing perhaps some challenges in life, stress, and the GP rightfully has a good idea of saying, well, maybe you should try meditation. Great idea. So then they go to a class, and maybe their expectation is that stress will come down. uh, but let's say they don't go to the right class. It's an advanced class, or it's a class that really requires getting right into um, uh, sort of complex cognitive processes to do the technique. uh, they're experiencing anything but, you know, the sort of bliss that I expect. This is really challenging stuff, sort of akin to doing mental arithmetic. But at a certain level, meditation involves the same processes as mental arithmetic. You wouldn't expect to be blissful and chilled out doing mental maths, but the idea is you're in a training arena, and training requires a bit of challenge. So I think people should sort of be forewarned, this is what to expect. And moreover, the simple fact of the matter is, like with anything that's good for you, you've got to invest the effort to do it. As simple as that. If you don't do it, you can't expect to have any change, any progress. And sort of how can we help people to better understand that, but better support them so that they don't go. For me, an example is, when I teach meditation. You get a person coming up to you at the end when you invite questions. They go, "Oh, that was a great class, thank you, but I won't be coming back." I go, "Oh, well, is it me? What went wrong?" It's like, "No, it was I really enjoyed the class, but you know what? I'm not meant for this meditation." Well, why is that? Well, while you're trying to get us to pay attention to our breath, I was just distracted the whole time. I just couldn't pay attention to my breath. And I feel like, if she, if the person was aware, well, this is what happens, they might have gone, well, that's the first step, to be aware of how your mind naturally, goes. So I think the first step is accepting your mind is like this because of how you use your mind. And moreover, maybe the mind is supposed to be like that sometimes. Maybe sometimes we are supposed to be distracted. And that's where we have wonderful, like, out of the blue ideas. That's what creativity is about, right? Just thinking outside of the box. And maybe if our brain was always focused on one thing, it couldn't do that. So I think we need to accept that this idea of mindfulness is, you paying better attention is maybe not the best way to explain it, and to let people know it's not going to be easy. But if you keep at it, as that growth mindset, it's not easy now, but keep at it, and something may happen for you. See what that is.
I think you've literally explained like my experience with meditation, because I have such what I describe as a loud head. Um, and I did that thing where, a doctor said, that's fine, just try meditation, go to this class. And I was like, all right, great. But I'm a skeptic by nature. And I went to this and I was just going, all right, this is just hippie stuff. Like this is this is crystals and incense, and and that to me wasn't gelling with what I thought that I needed. So it's good to know that the things we should be focusing on is, to start with, just do it. And do it in many different ways, and find that way that works for you. So that's a really interesting kind of, I guess, with any kind of exercise, is you have to start before you can actually get benefit on it. And it could be as small as brushing your teeth. So
but sharing that's a very useful experience, because here comes what we think meditation is, the associations, however you associate it with, where does that come from? Because like I said, your GP could have said to you, not necessarily have to do a meditation class, oh, here comes the whole hippie stuff, but they could have just said, maybe you should pay better attention to how you brush your teeth. They don't even have to mention meditation. Often in our research, we purposely don't call it meditation, because people may go, nah, I don't want to do that study. That's all hippie stuff. Or they come in thinking at the end of the session, they're going to be levitating off the ground, so we often refer to it as something very secular, very scientific. It's sort of attention techniques. Never have to mention mindfulness, never mention meditation. I mean, people do go, hey, is that a meditation there? And we go, yeah, it is. Haha. But I think that language is important, because you may be inclined to go onto YouTube and look for meditation scripts. Great idea. But you may come across more of what I call the crystal gazing type of, type of language, which maybe works for you, but maybe it doesn't. So I think this is something else that needs to be unpacked. And there is some who do pay attention to, how do we classify what's what in meditation, to have some form of roadmap, what's the right point to start for this kind of person, what differentiates this meditation from that meditation. Some use a sort of traditional historical approach. Some take a very sort of neurocognitive approach, which is sort of approach I take. But that fact that you're sharing the language and the association, I think that is actually a challenge. If the GP says you should go try meditation, and you just go, well, what's the GP on about? Like, I'm not going to burn incense in my house. But that's not what it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I'm so sad that we have to wrap this up, because I think I could listen to you talk about this for ages, especially for people like me who had come into it with probably an incorrect mindset. But you gave us some wonderful links while we were in the green room before. So if people are interested in finding out more, where would you suggest that we look?
Look within. No, seriously, take something that you do automatically, whether it's typing, talking, brushing your teeth, washing your dishes tonight, Sam, and just sort of treat it as if you never did it before, and go, how am I actually doing this? And what am I actually paying it? Rather than trying to correct yourself, just go, what's actually happening here? See what's happening there. I think that's a great way to explore and get to understand yourself. Of course, you can find, great theoretical papers out there, and I think there's some links being put out. There's some, nice videos on things like TED Talks, and there's movies out there. But I think if you really want to explore what this might be on about, take something that you do every day and try to just watch how you do it, openly. Don't judge yourself. Don't go right or wrong. Just go, how am I talking right now? How am I eating? Eating is a really good one, because often we try to go, yeah, I'm going to eat alone. That's great, because then you don't get distracted by discussion. But what do? We eat like this, So it is a bit of a leap for some people to go, no, I'm just going to eat, no TV, no nothing. I'm going to actually explore this process of eating, each and every bite and taste, and when I swallow and all these sort of things. I think is a really useful way to dive in. And for some, it's difficult to close your eyes and pay attention to your breath. And this is where yoga comes in wonderfully, because you're using movement. I can experience this movement. It's not something subtle. It's there. I'm moving. But often yoga uses these basic movements that you could go into autopilot and just go, yeah, what's for breakfast? And to go, no, actually, I'm going to turn the tide of my attention and actually look at how I'm using my body, how am I breathing, how am I coordinating? And that can take something so ordinary and make it hugely complex, and a really cool thing to explore. So I would invite people, as your next step, pick one thing and go explore how you're actually doing it.
That's perfect. I love that.
That's
So
great.
good.
And speaking of turning the tide of your attention and intention, we need to turn a tide right now. So we'd like to thank you very much, Maarten. Thanks for coming in. We really appreciate you popping onto the show today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, guys. That was the fastest 30 minutes. I love talking about this stuff. But thanks so much. And thanks to the whole team for putting this on. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Maarten.
Thanks, Maarten.
All right.